So I've talked about this before on the show, but I sometimes listen to Pod Save America because I hate feeling happy and and all of that, you know. So I'm listening to it today, and of course they've been covering the conventions, right? And so they've gone off in this spiel, which is probably true, that like the only people who are actually watching this shit as it happens are like political wonks and people who like already had their minds made up like a million years ago about the way they're going to go. And they start talking and they're like, yeah, but you know, they've got to be able to reach these undecided voters. And I was like thinking about that, and I was like, it's August of 2020. Like here's what I can get about that. I get being undecided in the way that it's like, I fucking hate both of these idiots. I haven't decided if I even want to show up and fucking vote. Like, that makes sense to me. Or like, I can understand how one might be in that mindset and come to that headspace, you know? But what I'm trying to imagine is somebody who's like, I don't know, I've been listening to this Biden guy talk and I like a lot of what he has to say. But then this Trump guy starts talking and he sounds like he's got some really good ideas too. And man, I don't know. It's really going to come down to like how they are on this issue, like X, Y, or Z.
Waiting for the debates.
Like, who is this guy, for one? Like, is this a real person, or is this just like a retort? Like, is there such a thing as an undecided voter right now who's like could go either way between Trump or Biden?
Skylar, I have to say, I did somehow, because I am an emotional cutter, so I also don't like happiness. I decided to watch, I think it was day 2 of the Republican National Convention. And I watched up until the point Melania droned on for way too long about nothing. And what I thought, I was trying to listen to it from the perspective of like, could this be compelling? Like, and I was like, yeah, it really could. Like, they hit on all of their core base things. And if you're one of those people who is kind of like middle America, and I don't mean like you literally live in the middle of America, but I just mean like you're kind of like mainstream white person, right, in America, who's like, has this kind of like sense of like right and wrong, but isn't too polarized, right? You're like, yeah, abortion doesn't make me happy. Like the whole idea of like, you know, people not having like, you know, he hit on all these things that were like intentionally tugging on your heartstrings, right? Talking about faith, talking about family, touting the fact that he's hired the first, you know, single woman as his single parent as, you know, his press secretary, and like all of these things that he was doing. And I was like, it gave me two things. Like, first of all, it gave me the sense that like Donald Trump knows that he actually may have to campaign for this time, because this was a way better put together and way less Trumpian kind of like presentation.
Sure.
But it also like was hitting on all of the talking points that, you know, rile people up. And
right.
It was making me upset because they were so bad.
Though.
But make people upset in the mainstream Republican kind of way. So like in the middle of all of this, he swore in 5 Rainbow Coalition folks to be new citizens of the US, right? I don't think it's ever happened at a Republican convention. And it was like, right. Of course, we have the Muslim woman wearing hijab, and we have the black guy, we have the, you know, person who looks like they're South Asian, right? Like it was like this way of being able to say, if you come and do it right, we're okay with immigration. You know, like he was just hitting on all of the points that where somebody could say, this guy's a racist. And you're like, but he just brought in 5 new brown Americans into, you know, like it was like so rhetorically compelling and so obnoxious at the same time.
Back to
like, I don't know. I think there are some people who could literally be on the fence because people have short memories, and they could start to believe like maybe we are blowing Trump out of proportion. The economy is recovering. You know, all these things that people tell you that are out of context, but that people who aren't paying that much attention could believe.
But you're ignoring his original point, which is that no one's watching this shit.
Okay, touche.
I mean, the other side of it, though, is that I don't think anybody's coming over from Camp Biden to vote for him based on any of that shit. Like, I feel like Republicans who would have started off by being like, oh, I fucking hate Trump, so I'm just not going to vote. Maybe some of those guys might come on, but I don't think anybody's going to be like, all right, man, I was for Biden, but after watching that black guy at the RNC, like I'm on Team Trump now.
Apparently they are. I mean, he brought out the black guy he pardoned, right? He had all kinds of black people speaking and talking about their experiences. There was a white guy there who used to be a Democrat and is now voting Trump. I'm just saying, like, apparently these people exist. I think they're Russian bots, but they show up in human form and they say things like, I'm here and this is who I used to be and now I'm here, right? Like,
I think you're right that Trump's RNC was 10 times, 100 times more compelling, more emotionally moving, even if you fucking hate him, it was emotionally moving in that regard, than Biden's could have ever been last week, which I think is very powerful, and that's a lot of where Trump's power comes from. And the second thing to Biden's, it's like Trump is going to get a real bump from his convention. Biden did not, because Biden is, to Skylar's point, was like, he continues to go after this centrist that doesn't fucking exist.
Right.
They don't exist. Like, they had half of the RNC 96 convention up on the stage
totally.
at the DNC.
Yes, I love it.
Year.
I love it. Fucking
John fucking Kasich.
Bon appetit. Fucking
like, who
Dems.
gives
this
a
is so good.
fuck on
so
the
good.
left? So again, what they're doing, they're making the same mistakes Hillary made in 2016. They're depressing the progressive base, and they're going after these, centrists who don't exist. And
you know what? It was a winning
exciting
strategy in 2016, and it's a winning strategy in 2020, Dave. We lost in 2016 running that strategy. I'm sorry.
I'm
I forgot
in
about
agreement.
that.
Totally in agreement.
Flo is starting. I'm starting to be Team Flo. Like, fuck, maybe he is a two-term president.
Oh no!
Hey, I'll tell you what. If anybody can fucking snatch defeat from the jaws of victory in 2020, it is the fucking Democrats.
It is a Democrat. Yes,
100%. This, like, think about that. Think about how much of a fucking slam dunk this election should be. And then think about how fucking close it is. And like how like even Democrats are like, oh shit, man, it's a race. Think about how fucking easy this should be for like fucking Ronald McDonald to walk out as the fucking candidate and just tomahawk slam on this dude. And it's not fucking happening. And then if you like criticize Biden and the Democrats for being so shitty and wishy-washy, you love Trump and hate freedom or whatever the fuck the goddamn Dems.
You hate freedom.
Just need to like quote the woman who is apparently the Planned Parenthood defector, because I'm really impressed with the internet that abortion smell was not trending on Tuesday night.
Abortion smell?
Yes, because she literally got up there and talked about how, so the backstory is apparently she's just a disgruntled employee who quit her job because she was bad at it at Planned Parenthood. But she tells this whole story of seeing this like 13-week abortion and being traumatized by it and feeling
because the baby moved away from the suction.
Yeah. So she tells this whole story, and even though she was not a medical person, so her even being in for this abortion is sketchy, and they can't find any records.
They can't find her name anywhere.
Well, they can't find any records of anybody who was that far along in their pregnancy who had an abortion during the day when she said anything like this happened. But that's her story, not that she was about to get fired and she decided she's just disgruntled and was going to get them back. And so she tells the story, and then she's like, I bet some of you didn't even know that abortion had a smell.
Oh my God.
It does.
Oh my God.
I was just like,
she's the...
I was both perplexed and amused, entertained, and I was like, I see why this is compelling, but I was really impressed with the internet for not getting
good TV. The weird shit that
true.
goes on.
It is good TV.
I like
having Gavin Newsom's ex-wife go up and like say the weirdest shit possible. That I tuned in for it. I tuned the fuck in, and I was not. I was glad I did.
Tiffany Trump just got up there and reminded everybody that nobody cares about her, and it was it was just like, yeah, this is good television.
Yeah,
dude, good television is a fucking 13-week-old or whatever fetus like patriotically resisting the suction and singing the national anthem while it goes into its stinky hole, or
this is like,
oh my God, Jesus, you guys. I want the listeners to know that earlier when Shannon said baby very strongly, she was doing scare quotes with her hand. Like she wasn't arguing on the side of,
oh God, no. Yeah, no, I know the fetus wasn't, I know that a fetus isn't a baby.
Yes, but
get your abortions if you want them.
I'm gonna just make the suggestion that we steer clear of talking about fetuses on this show, like for a while at least. Let's dial the fetus.
Let this simmer.
I was just coming around to it. So.
It was so bizarre, just the way that they put everything together, but also really rhetorically compelling, right? Mm-hmm. Like you walked away with this clear sense of what they stood for. And if there's one thing that I've always admired about the Republican Party, and it really is just this one thing, it's that there is this set of like things that they're willing to like tout as their beliefs. And even if people depart from it, they're like, yep, this is it. This is what
they don't move.
And they don't move, right? And so you get to be like, well, I'm a Republican, but I'm pro, choice, or I'm a Republican, but I'm not da 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 da. But you don't get to convince them to change that that's where they anchor. And I wish that the other major party, aka the Democrats, would anchor somewhere as well instead of trying to be all things to all people, because it doesn't work. And so you pick something and then you let people tell you what their points of departure are, but you don't just like waft in the wind. And so that's the one thing that I have always respected about them, is like, this is what the party platform is. In fact, it's so fixed, they didn't even bother to update it this year.
Right?
And it's just like, you either get on board or you work that out in your own psyche with your therapist. Like, nobody cares.
You know what I respect about the Republicans, sort of in the same vein, is that I believe that Republican voters sit around literally not at all and say like things like, man, this policy that like literally all of us want, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer will never go for it. They'll just vote it down, so we shouldn't even talk about it or act like we want it. That is not how the Republicans engage in shit. That's how Democrats get shit done. And look, and the results are plain that we live in a fucking right-wing hellscape because the Republicans just go after the things that they and their constituents want, and the Democrats fucking won't. That is a thing that I respect about Republicans.
Yeah. Also, that they made our opener a full segment this morning, or this.
I know. This morning. We got to start moving.
All right, let's do it.
The cops outside my window are really starting to move, so let's get this rolling.
All right.
Let's go.
Always said the things they said. Always said some from those dead. All the voices heard. Always said things we say. Always said they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Hello, everyone. You have Kempa
and Skylar
and Shannon
and Flo.
Yes. We had a real good run there of guests for almost a full, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Shut
And now
the
it's
fuck
just...
up, really? What is time?
I know. And now it's just the four of us, and we get to... I love having every once in a while an episode like this where we all get to sort of let loose a little bit. Because I always feel like I have to be more formal with the guest, so...
Right. There's no fetus jokes with the guests.
Oh, hell no. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's true. I guess hey, you're right.
So before we, really get into this... hang on. Sorry. So we're recording this on... what's tonight?
August 27th.
That's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday evening. There's police helicopters over my house and sirens going off outside. So I'm going to be a little distracted maybe as we go here tonight.
Yeah.
I want to start this out though.
And I have there's a dozen cop cars outside of my place. They're all stationed over here. And of course the cops are around. So shit's going down tonight. And unfortunately, listeners, we won't be able to cover whatever happens tonight because it's kind of happening in real time. So maybe next episode.
And I do want to talk about that, but first I sort of almost selfishly want to kind of take advantage of the fact that I get to do this show with Dr. Flo. I feel like with all of the fucking whole world's on fire, right? Like California is like quite literally on fire. We're back to protests in the streets. We're back to police brutality. There's still COVID-19 going on, mass unemployment, mass evictions. In all of that, I feel like at least my attention has sort of been dragged away from COVID-19 and kind of staying up on where we're at with that. And so I thought I would love, Flo, if you could kind of give me an update on where we're at with all of that. Like, where are we on the fucktometer from 1 to 10?
Well, okay, so nationally we have tested about 75 million people or so, and we've had about 5.8 million people come back confirmed, and our current national death toll is about 180,000 people. In California, we make up 10 million of those tests, almost 11, and we have about 680,000 confirmed cases and around 12,000 or so deaths that have happened. The big updates for the state of California is that, like, in the last several weeks, our daily death average has been above 100, and pretty, steadfastly kind of holding at above 100, whereas we were in the like 70s and 80s from May until almost the end of June. So we've really been kind of ramping up, especially in the last month, which is not good news. So this week, we've actually had some new guidance come down from the governor around, limited school campus openings that could be starting really soon. And so they've been saying that because there's been like this decrease in the hospitalizations and some decreases in the new case count, even though the death count is still pretty high. But
a death count will be, it's usually 2 to 3 weeks behind, right?
Exactly.
Because it takes that long after testing positive.
Exactly. Okay. So there always is going to be that lag as well in the death count. But unfortunately, August has been Sacramento's deadliest month thus far. And so as of, I think it was Thursday, there were at least like 260 or so people in the county who had died from COVID this month. And it was, that was much higher than, than it had been before. It was, I think our total death count is 265, and 92 people died in the first 22 days of August. So that was last Friday, sorry. So that is much higher than our death count was even in the entire month of July, which was 85. And that was still with, another 8 days left or 9 days left in the month, and we're not there yet. So that's been one of our challenges, is that while the state seems to be declining in cases, and our death count has been kind of hovering over 100 per day for the entire state, the county's death toll is up as compared to the month before. And that's alarming, especially given the fact that, we've been so far behind on testing. And so the question of how many cases we're actually picking up is still up in the air.
Yeah, that's my big question. Because like you look at 2 weeks ago, and that, if you look at sort of how our, I guess, timeline or our curve is looking, it looks like that was the apex of our county's curve. And so I'm not surprised our deaths are still that high because of that 2 to 3 week sort of lag. But I also look at the numbers going down day to day the last few days, and I'm like, I don't even know how well I can believe it, because the state really lost our faith a couple weeks ago when they're like, oh man, we haven't been counting this correctly.
Yeah. And we've really been, upticking the new cases. There was one day had 300 new cases reported.
Jeez.
And so some days we're averaging between, 115 or so to almost 170. So it, it really it honestly just depends. And a lot of that has to do with, we obviously had some of our testing sites shut down in Sacramento because we were low on reagent. It also didn't help that we had not been spending money on public health, and instead had spent all of our money on the sheriff. So we didn't even have contact tracers for the people who were testing positive, so we could try to identify all of their contacts. So there are just a lot of, failures in terms of leadership, not setting public health up to be able to do the good work that they're able to do when they have the proper resources.
Yeah.
Can we move on, because we've put a lot of time into a couple things now, and we had two main topics today.
Yep.
Totally. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, super helpful.
Yeah.
Because it always feels like I don't know what the fuck's going on with this. And then it always feels like we've got, like, no pun intended, but like all these other fires to put out in our lives.
Yeah, we had a heat wave, and then we had fires. And so, again, given our topics for the show, all things that affect our unhoused population the most. So just keeping that on everybody's radar, that all of these things have hit them hardest, and often given them way fewer resources than even the rest of us who are struggling. So,
yeah. Well, so let's take a step back to, I guess, the 50,000-foot view of our country, and go over to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and let's talk a little bit about, we talked very briefly last episode about Jacob Blake. This is a 29-year-old man, black man, who a neighbor effectively took footage of him walking to his vehicle where his 3 sons were sitting in it, and cops were chasing after him and trying to stop him. And as he opened the door and tried to get into his vehicle with his children, they shot him multiple times in the back. And so this sort of has brought up a bunch of unrest in Kenosha and in other cities now. Other cities are now demonstrating again. I believe Minneapolis is. I believe Portland is again. And
Portland
now
never stopped.
Yeah,
Portland's
they're like day 90 or whatever almost.
Right.
Yeah. And then Sacramento, we're having stuff again tonight. We'll get to that. But things really amped up out there. One thing I wanted to note that Kenosha PD doesn't have body cams. So if that person didn't film that, none of this happens. None of us ever know about this. And it makes you wonder, how many times a day does this happen in our country?
Right.
That we don't know about. And so, obviously it's just these police shootings. There's multiple a day throughout the country. And people aren't making shit up. This is a real problem, and there's a reason people are going out and doing what they're doing. Can somebody give a little sort of talk through the storyline of what happened in the days after Mr. Blake was shot and ended up in the hospital?
Sure. So after Jacob Blake was shot by police officers 7 times in the back.
I've heard they found an 8th hole in him when they were operating on him.
You're right. I read that today too.
That's why I said multiple. I didn't know how.
Multiple times. Yeah. He was shot multiple times in the back while his children were in the vehicle. The city had a similar uprising to what we saw after George Floyd was killed. And
burnt down a building, the parole/correctional office.
Correctional office.
Yeah. And so there was a building involved fire, and if it didn't want to burn, it should have complied.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with
where
that.
It was right in front of the protesters.
It should have put its hands up and
should have opened its doors up and
let the people do its thing. So, I mean, I think, what we saw was a similar level of unrest in that community after this shooting, which all sort of the thing that we're now finding is I guess the tipping point was a couple nights ago when
Tuesday night,
Tuesday evening, thank you, when folks were demonstrating on the streets and a 17-year-old white man, boy.
So this sort of
nerd
militia, this militia of a bunch of young white men showed up to defend the businesses of Kenosha.
In the way
this guy specifically came across state lines. He's from Illinois. He's not even local.
Antioch, Illinois, which I know very well. I have much family from there, and they have the worst politics in my family, interestingly enough.
Would just like to say, too, that if you grab a rifle...
if that tells you anything.
Wait, you have family there?
From Antioch? Oh, all sorts of family there, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They don't live there now, but yeah. I lived in Green Bay, and so, that was we could drive within, it was within, a 3-hour drive to see.
This is some real, Midwest shit, because for me, when I'm a kid drove across state lines, how the fuck long did he drive? And then they're like
40 minutes.
He drove an hour. And I'm like, oh, this is clearly my California
Even
showing.
so, though, you don't travel an hour, cross a state line with a weapon to come down and protect anything. Protection is not what you're fucking in it for. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
In his mind, maybe he's just this
he came down here to shoot some people and he fucking did.
Kid, he's 17. You look at his Facebook profile; it's all thin blue line shit. Yeah. He's been inured with this for years.
So and this is
the logical ending of it. But I'm sorry, Shannon, finish what happened. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I mean, what we find is this. You got a bunch of white dudes wearing fucking camo, showing up draped in American flags, yelling hoorah, with their automatic assault rifles, and their fucking steel-toed boots, trying to, light shit up and protect fucking buildings, right? They're not out there. They're out there to do what is it everyone's talking about, vigilante white man justice, which is really just
protection of capital.
People, right? Yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit.
The same reason the cops are doing.
Sounds like a lot of shit we remember from the lynching years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, totally.
100%.
Part of the historical playbook. That's how this works.
So this kid, in the middle of a demonstration, that becomes I watched the video, and it's the video that I watched anyway. A ruckus occurs, but nothing violent. And suddenly this kid is on the floor, opening fire with his automatic weapon on a crowd of protesters, and gets up and walks away, walks toward police officers. A 17-year-old, super important for us to say over and over again, white boy,
right,
walks toward police officers.
You didn't have to say he was white. He walked away from the police. We all knew that.
With a crowd
you're right
behind him saying he killed.
Who else gets to do that?
This is the guy who shot a bunch of people.
And he's got one of the guys that he killed 2 people, and one person I read today lost their arm as a result of this shooting.
That was the third guy, yeah. So there was a guy he shot before that, which had him running away from them, and then he shot those next 2 guys. So he shot a guy in the head over at this used car lot.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
And walks into police. There are militarized police vehicles that are coming down the street that he is walking on toward them, while the entire crowd is chasing after him, saying, get him, he just shot someone. And the kid, if he gets in his car and goes right on back to fucking Antioch.
He's saying, he's got his arms up. He's saying, get me. And they just drive on by. The same cops that were thanking him earlier and giving him a bottle of water before all this went down, along with the rest of this militia. And, you know, then later in the night, they're like, we're on a search for a man. It's like, yeah, you fucking idiots. Like, he was
you
right in
waved
front
him
of you.
on,
There's
assholes.
video of it. Yeah.
So that's how we end up in...
He has been caught and he's being charged with murder. So that is an
so
important piece of this story.
And so should the police officers that allowed him to walk away, and so should his mother, who drove the fucking car.
Him in. She's an accomplice to murder for sure. She's the fucking 100%. Driver.
That motherfucker did not get in a car with an automatic assault rifle, travel across state lines to a protest for the killing of a black man, and think to himself, I'm not going to fuck somebody up tonight, and maybe even kill somebody.
Yeah, he went in looking to fucking find a bunch of trouble, and he found it.
100%.
Yep.
I just... You know, we've got black kids being killed for fake weapons and holding a bag of Skittles. And this kid is like got a goddamn rifle slung over his chest, walking towards the cops saying, I did it. And they're like, thanks, bro.
Oh, 100%. He'll be out of fucking jail by the time he's 35, and then he'll be elected Republican president.
Yeah.
Gosh, that makes me so it's too upsetting because it's true.
I mean, and this is, you know, like we can go on and we should about how fucked up this is. One of the things that keeps coming to my mind is like, how do our communities of Black friends, family members, everybody continue to go on with this? Like the magic, like the level of anger that I feel is so much, and I'm not Black. And right. So I recognize that I can't feel it in the same way, you know, like that. How do we expect, we need to provide lots of like trauma support for Black folks, because this like state sanctioned violence, this fucking United States sanctioned fucking violence is causing incredible harm, not only to the people, not only to the families, but to Black people across our country and across the world.
And it has since its inception. It's not new. This is always how it's always happened. It's just that now everybody has fucking Facebook Live, so we get to see it, you know. Right. But it's always been like this.
It's also this thing about like how desensitized you get to it. So I was having a conversation with some young people earlier today, ages, 15 to 19, and they were just kind of like, yeah, that's just how it is. Like, and that was almost more upsetting to me than them being, it was just like how resigned they were to this happening. And then, my friend LaShawn, who works for children now and is always thinking about this from a children's perspective, was just like, every Black person has that one police violence case that is their lasting impression of what police in America are capable of. And she said for her, it was Amadou Diallo, and she was 13. And she was like, she was too young for Rodney King to understand, but she understood the tenor of her house. And she was 6 when that happened. And so she was like, so imagine her surprise when like in 2012 to 2014, when the, so many of the police murders sort of started to rock the country. And she was like, I can't even remember which one, but she was like, she had this work colleague who was white who expressed this utter horror and disbelief at what was happening in America. And she was like, I didn't grow up with a lot of white people. And so I didn't really know, I just did. It wasn't until that moment that she realized just what had been stolen from her youth, right? Like this woman got to be in her 30s and be shocked at what was happening. And she was like, my first understanding of how tenuous my life is, and those who look like me, happened at 6. And then it happened again really poignantly at 13. So this is also like a children's issue of stolen childhoods, like sometimes literally, but often figuratively, of like, how you don't even get to be an adult before you recognize this as part of your lived experience. But whether it's your parents having to have the talk with you when you start to hang out with your friends alone and you're no longer with them, whether it's them having to explain to you what you're seeing now on your social media, but before on the news, like, all of these are conversations that you have to have in a very different way, and that you don't have the luxury of shielding your children from.
Right.
And I think that was just a really sobering reminder of, like, I'm an adult now, so I'm thinking about this as an adult, and I'm an adult who doesn't have children. But just to recognize, like, yeah, I remember Rodney King. I remember that being a big deal. I remember, Johnny Gamage was the one for me, right? And it's like, these were the cases that shape how you see yourself and how you view your safety. When I first got my license, I wore my license in a holder around my neck. That was not a good look for a 16-year-old, but I was so terrified that I was going to be pulled over and somebody was going to say I was reaching for a weapon that I literally wore my license in a lanyard around my neck. I was a nerd, but I was not that much of a nerd. But I was terrified that I was going to be out and something was going to happen to me. So yeah, it's just this constant terror that you live with. I mean, there was a part of me that was actually, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but like happy when the fires were happening and Tareen couldn't go out running, because it terrifies me every time he's out there that something's going to happen and someone's going to find him to be dangerous and he's not going to come back. And I was like, just stay in the house. The air quality is bad, right? And I don't want to be that person. Like, I love running, he loves running, and this is like part of our health, but it comes with a cost and it takes a toll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The coach of the Duke women's basketball team gave a speech on something similar like that today, saying just like, for her, being a Black woman in this country, it's every day is just rife with anxiety in anything you do, on your way to work, on your way to do anything. It's like, that could be kind of the way she put it, is like, these could be my last moments. And this is something that I think the rest of us like don't understand. Like, how the fuck could you understand that, right?
Yeah.
Right. You know what's the thing, Flo, that you said on a previous episode when we were talking about this in the context of George Floyd? You said something that I hadn't, like, it's not like, I guess, surprising to me, but I had never really heard it in these words before. But you were talking about Tareen jogging and how it was terrifying. And one of the things you mentioned is that if he's running through a white neighborhood, it doesn't matter if he's like having a bad day or if he had a shitty day at work, or like if he's got something going on and he's like trying to work through something, he's got to like smile and make white people that he runs by feel safe, because if he doesn't, he might be shot to death by police. And that like there are things that I like, feel like I can consider and be like, oh yeah, like that must suck. That must be terrible. But I had never even thought of that. And like, just the fact that he doesn't have the ability to just go and like have a run and just like have his face look like whatever the fuck he's feeling at that moment,
right,
is, I don't know. I've never stopped thinking about that ever since you brought that up on the show a few months back.
I think it's like, Flo, as you're talking about, especially like children and the way this fear manifests and the damage that it does. There's this like really fucked up propaganda video that I'm only bringing up because I think that it's the moment with this little girl. She's a young Black girl. She's probably about 5, maybe 6 years old. And a cop rolls by, and her mom took this video of the little girl screaming. She was terrified. This little girl was like shaking with her hands up, screaming, "Don't shoot me." And the cop is like not responding to anything. The cop is driving by. It's propaganda because it then shows this white cop, crying with this little girl, and it's like, leave her the fuck alone. Like, it's, she just traumatized that child even more. But this is a big part of the conversation I think that we need to start having, which is what is happening to children in their formative years that they are having to disassociate so much that you get a response like the one that Flo had, which was, yeah, it happened again.
Right.
With no emotion, because they can't have, because like, what are they going to do? Their body, like, your body just go into fucking shock. And I don't know, I'm not sure how to enter into that conversation. And I love what we do here, because I think that we can bring these things up and sort of model the way to enter into these conversations. But I think it's something for us and for our listeners to really consider, that this is like, we are a yelly podcast where we like bring you all of our news commentary and say like, fuck the police and all that shit. And that's really important, and it's cathartic, and it, we bring people things that are valuable.
I believe that's an important message too. Like, one of the things 100%. I'm fucking proud of on this show is that we will come out and be like, fuck the police, ACAB.
Totally.
I believe that 100%. I'm not fucking, there is no, some cops are fucking doing good, good guys who are here to do good work. We don't fuck around with that shit on this show. And like, and I feel more fucking, every fucking time the cops are in the news, I feel more and more vindicated in my fucking position on that show.
They
100%.
keep proving our point. They keep proving everyone's point who believes in abolition. And I get more and more frustrated with members of the media, my colleagues that continue to read cop press releases and just print them kind of just as is, right? To use headlines. Terminology like officer involved shooting.
Right.
The fact that these very recent shootings, the ones that are very close to home, are the ones that like finally get them thinking twice. I mean, I guess that's a good step forward, but it's just like, where have you been? Where have you been?
Yeah, I mean, this shit has been, we all say this. Skylar said it a couple times tonight. Like, this shit has been happening since the fucking beginning. And how many years into this do people got to wake up? Like this, it's infuriating.
Right. How many more people got to die before you'll be like, all right, like,
I guess this is a problem.
Upset that, like, McDonald's burned down. How many people got to go?
It's domestic violence, right? Like, I mean, everything about this is the power, like that power wheel of control, right? And how often the way that abusers will engage is that they're kind sometimes, right? They do nice things that kind of, and then they gaslight you, right? And they make it seem, they apologize for and they say it won't happen again, right? And like all of these things are part of a cycle of domestic violence, right down to the fact that they'll tell you that you need them and you're nothing without them. Like, literally, that's what the police tell us all the time, is that it will devolve into pandemonium without them. And so we need them. Like, it's all part of this domestic violence cycle. If you were to just take their talking points and superimpose them, we would help you develop a safety plan to get out of that relationship.
Which is exactly what's happening tonight, right? People.
Let's bring it local.
People are standing up and, like, getting angry, and they're taking the streets, and we have our mayor and our supervisors and our city council who are all like, but keep it peaceful, and doing that thing, which is like bringing in, like, rounding out that cycle of fucking emotional manipulation that abusers do.
So tonight there are 2 demonstrations planned, correct? Mm-hmm. The first one is at 5:30. It's in Cesar Chavez Park. And by all accounts, even the politicians are behind it, right?
I went to that one briefly, and it was like pretty mellow, pretty by the numbers. Yeah.
And the second one that has all of these local politicians like putting out press releases and write-ups on their, Mayor Ganda websites,
which is happening right now as we have this conversation,
and Supaganda websites, because Sue Frost apparently was able to string together a series of words into a sentence about this too.
I'm going to enjoy that one. But basically, so there's an 8 p.m. one, and this is one that the politicians are like, well, this one was endorsed. This one was
promoted
by Antifa Sacramento, which apparently there's like an Antifa Sacramento a Facebook page, which I finally started following today. I didn't know it existed. But it is, apparently it is the official page of Antifa for our region. And, as their spokesperson, I'm here to say that this is definitely a thing. But anyway, so they were like, all right, we're having an 8 p.m. demonstration. And then it said, wear black, don't wear anything identifiable. All cops are bastards, basically. And
accurate.
Steinberg freaked out, and he put out a little presser just like, I agree with this 531. I hear them and I see them, and I'm behind them. But I am not behind this 8 p.m. thing. I'm not behind violence or destruction of property and blah, 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 blah.
Peaceful protest.
Fucking wiener.
Yeah.
Can I say something about that real quick?
Yeah, let's talk about Daryl, and then we'll get to Sue in a minute.
So here's the thing. So you are going to hear not just from Steinberg, and regardless of what happens tonight and over the course of the next few nights, you are going to hear a lot of people being like, look, I support the message too, but there's really just no excuse for burning down buildings and, people's stores and stuff. Now, here's why that fucking sucks. And I'm going to break this down as concisely as I can. So, basically the statement that you're hearing is like, look, I think that it sucks that police are executing black people in the street, but it is not acceptable to burn down Sharif or, mob Sharif jeweler or burn some shit down or whatever, right? So the framing of that, if you look at what that person is actually saying, they're saying, oh man, it's a shame that all these black lives are being extinguished by cops, but what the real problem is property damage here, right? The correct way to come at that is man, it's a fucking shame that all these buildings are getting their windows smashed in and burned to the fucking ground, but it is absolutely unacceptable that every time a fucking cop kills an unarmed black guy, that's fucking unacceptable, 100%. The buildings, it's a shame. The buildings are a symptom of something that belies a bigger problem, but crying about the buildings instead of the lives being killed is the wrong fucking priority. You can't be on that shit. I don't know if that was concise enough or not. But the fact that Daryl Steinberg is going to whine about a bunch of property damage and then go ahead and fucking throw, whatever, sign off on budgets that throw this incredible amount of money at law enforcement and the cops and all this shit. I don't know. I think the guy's a fucking wiener. I think if this guy really fucking wanted this shit to be over, he could at least act like it. He could at least say something. Even if he was like, look, I don't want to do this. The police unions are going to come in and do X, Y, and Z, but this is what I believe. Dude, sweet. At least you fucking stood up. He won't even do that. Would he really, the number one thing for Daryl Steinberg, his concern is not his black constituents being gunned down by cops. It's people smashing windows out and lighting shit on fire. That's his concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the people, and it's always the fucking libs that are like, here's the thing. I want everyone to be clear on the following points. One, I support the police, but not the bad ones, not the ones that do the crimes. And also, I support the protesters because they have a right to be angry, but not the ones that do the crimes. And it's you're missing the fucking point, asshole.
Right.
Also, crime is all subjective because these are the same people, if they were part of history, who would have owned me and thought that was totally fine because it wasn't a crime. So fuck you and your crime.
And also stop trying to over fucking simplify the issue.
But also fuck you and your crime. Really,
100%.
Really fuck you and your crime, because crime, most of the things we criminalize, with the exception of murder and rape, are often crimes of poverty. Like, we don't give people enough, and then we criminalize them for taking or finding other routes to be able to meet their needs. If we really want to be honest about that, it's all socially constructed. And so I find a really fucking difficult time stomaching the idea that people are so up in arms about crime, but ain't nobody paid me or any of my folks any reparations for owning us. And that was a crime if ever there was one. So fuck you and fuck your crime.
Yeah. 100%.
The social construct of crime that has been upheld over the last especially the last number of months, but since a very long time, is incredibly fucking disappointing and utter bullshit.
Yeah. I saw a few sort of spray painted things in cities throughout the US this past week that said, we could never loot anywhere near what you've taken from us.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
I mean, that's that I think it was right after George Floyd was killed, where it was the message. I mean, there were like memes that were like, you should be glad that this is all we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was that one woman who had that really compelling
justice versus revenge.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That gave me fucking chills listening to her say that. Yeah.
And like, fuck your comfort that allows you to sit in judgment of what's happening. Like, it is your privilege that allows you to sit back in your leather fucking lazy boy watching Fox News, or probably CNN even, because we know the libs are part of this, and, you know, kick up your feet and drink your little cocktail, or your, God, they're probably, some of them might be drinking White Claw. Anyway.
No, that's our age group.
No.
Is it our age group?
Look,
Okay.
yeah. I was gonna say we can't boycott all the alcohol. There'd be nothing left. That's the one thing that unites all.
No, I mean, also, like, that's what we need to.
Truly,
if we're gonna do this show, we gotta have the claw.
Right.
But just, you know, I mean, anyway, the point is, it's your fucking privilege, and fuck you and your lazy boy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the other side of that too is like, you know, there's no way this dude up in fucking Orangevale drinking Coors Light because he's a real piece of shit. Sorry to everybody who drinks Coors Light. I don't know.
My dad drinks Coors Light, Tyler.
But he's fucking up in Orangevale with his like Ford 350 in the driveway, watching the news and being like, they broke into Sharif Jeweler downtown. This guy doesn't give a fuck that they fucking broke the windows out of Sharif Jeweler. He gives a fuck that people are in the streets fucking demonstrating for Black lives. That's why he's mad. He doesn't give a fuck that they busted out that like boutique shoe store and took some fucking shoes.
He would racially profile Sharif if he saw him on the street.
Exactly.
100%.
Say that louder. 100%. For real.
Fuck that guy. Like, no.
So can
Speaking of terrible takes, can we get to Sue Frost's post?
Yes, please.
That's what I was going to ask.
Because she changed it.
Yes, she did.
I think it is important for the original one to be seen because she changed it.
We do have.
I took a screenshot.
I think I can send the screenshot to the group here.
I think we've all seen it.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Original one says, you know, there are these two protests being scheduled tonight at Cesar Chavez Plaza in downtown Sacramento. A peaceful one at 5:30. By the way, you don't get to decide what you like. This is like, you're the good blacks, you're the bad blacks.
100%.
You're the good protesters, you're the bad protesters. Yes. Fuck you and your judgment. Nobody cares. You don't tell us who's good and who's bad. And they
also,
like to
who
do
do you
this.
think is doing a better fucking job of like getting through to the fucking establishment?
But this is like, you don't get. It's sort of like Scott Jones when like a couple of years ago he decided he was going to be like, you don't represent the Black community and Black Lives Matter. And I was like, first of all, you don't get to opine on who represents the Black community because you are a white man who is not a part of any of this. So fall all the fuck the way back. Like, all the way back. Like, we'll tell you who is and who is not. We will gather our own, but don't you dare ever come and try to deputize leadership, especially from the position of an elected official. You don't get to deputize leadership because it's always going to be the people who like you.
I thought Scott Jones was on the Black Lives Matter Oversight Committee.
Yeah, he's in. He's really supportive.
So
she goes on to say, like, I support the right to peacefully protest. First of all, stop it. Protests by design are not peaceful. They are breaking a law. They are meant to disrupt. So I hate this whole idea of peaceful protest. But organizers of the 8:30 protests are asking individuals to, quote, mask up, wear black, no logos, bring friends, don't snitch, no good cops, no peace police. I'm like, cool, sign me up.
Let's fucking go.
Where do you want me?
Like, is somebody smoking a doobie? Like, what's next? Like, that sounds like fun, right?
I'll bring the claw.
So then,
go paint some driveways.
Her next line in the original post is, if we don't start taking back peaceful control of our streets, then we're going to see the same kind of rioting as Portland, Minneapolis, and other cities. I guess maybe her legal team or other folks got to her and said, that sounds a lot like a threat, and 3 people just died.
Right, yeah, maybe more than 48 hours after the last, vigilante shooting of protesters. Let's change the wording.
There was over 1,000 comments on that. Many of which were like, so what you're doing is you're deputizing all of the white
She's
people.
She's asking vigilantes to come in and deal with it. Yeah.
So then she changes it to, we need to support. So the first part is still the same, including the fun call to action of mask up, wear black, no logos, bring friends, don't snitch, no good cops, no peace police. But then she changes it to, we need to support our police who are trying to protect our streets and ensure that we don't devolve into the rioting occurring in Portland, Minneapolis, and other cities.
That's not any fucking better.
It's not. It's not, and in fact, it's more dog whistle. It's like, oh, let me change it. We need to support our police. That's exactly what the vigilantes thought they were doing.
Yeah.
She's more protected legally, but she's not saying anything different.
Nothing different.
Yeah.
She is. Fuck. God damn it. She's such a
Darth
monster.
Seuss. Darth Seuss.
Oh.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised she took that. I mean, I guess not surprised, but surprised, I guess, at the how flagrant it was.
She gave all her money.
It's wild.
Coronavirus to the sheriff. Of course she did.
We need to take our streets back. Right after fucking some right-wing asshole drove across state lines to shoot people at a BLM protest.
But let's not forget, this is the same. She's a fucking idiot, because this is the same person who. A week ago in a meeting about coronavirus called going to school and going to Lowe's the same thing. There's some I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a doctor, but I could have sworn
you were a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
My science tells me something is the fuck going on with her toolbox upstairs.
That's a solid.
Yeah, you're a neurologist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is straight out of the book where the diagnoses are.
I just feel like, for those West Wing fans out there, I feel like somebody needs to crime boy I don't know her in the best way, because this is just somebody needs to take that moment and just say, this is when I decided to kick your ass. I'm hoping that tonight there's somebody who lives in Sioux Frost District who is #never again.
What I want to see is just okay, we can edit this out if this is bad. I just want to see on her street, just erect stadium seating, and just have a bunch of people just sit and do nothing. Just sit and watch her always, so that she always feels just under the watchful eye of the people, so that she can always be scared.
I don't think that's wrong. And there's a some pretty prominent progressive Democrats within the state of California that have been saying recently that they used to absolutely despise the concept of going to politicians' homes, and they're coming around to it now, because this is beyond anything that you could have
life
imagined.
and death.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And
I just want her to be really, really uncomfortable.
If our neighbors are literally fearing their lives, why shouldn't they feel uncomfortable in their homes?
Yeah.
Dude,
why shouldn't they feel
the no justice, no peace shit is not just a phrase.
No, we're not fucking around with that. What the fuck did you think
was going to happen? The protesters have been telling you guys for decades now exactly what the fucking plan is. That's why there's not any fucking peace.
You get no peace.
You get no fucking peace.
I mean,
Sorry.
I don't understand. I don't get this, like, I mean, because they're fucking idiots. I guess I get it. This, like, constant push in the wrong direction, from giving the sheriff's money to have a parade for a cop that was shot at, to posting this shit online that's calling just like your average, Chevy truck, Miller Lite, Chevy truck driver.
We're going through all the domestics tonight.
Backwards hat,
listen,
camo
man,
wearing.
There's some really good Wisconsinites that drink Miller Lite that are out there on those streets.
Highlight is one of my favorite beers.
Yeah, and they're fighting the good fight and putting their lives on the line. So we'll push back there.
All right, I'm thinking specifically about. You all know who I'm talking about. The ones that wear the tank tops.
I wear tank tops.
With the coffee stains.
I got coffee stains on my tank top.
God damn it. I get you. So this is a lesson in how we should not stereotype people.
You should not stereotype people. That is correct.
Because what we
Shannon has learned a valuable lesson this evening.
Yo, you said Coors Light thing earlier. I was like, my dad drinks Coors Light, and he's a very nice and good man.
And I'm a Wisconsinite, just like, yeah, fuck Colorado beer, yeah.
Fuck those Rocky Mountains.
We drink Miller where I'm from.
I love High Life, preferably out of a bottle in a cooler of ice.
It's called the champagne of beers, and for a reason.
You ain't never lied. Delicious. Anyway, we're talking about how all cops are fucking bastards and how Sue Frost is a royal asshole.
Yeah. Well, and then there's just the demonstrations tonight, and Skylar and I are downtown, and we can hear the helicopters. The cops
can hear them all here.
Can you? Down where you are?
Yeah, I'm just off of Broadway. I'm not going to say exactly where I am because I think I'm gaining some haters. So
good. That means you're gaining power.
I don't know how, I don't know what's going to happen tonight or over the course of the next few days, but I do know that people who listen to this show may be out in the streets, and for one, thank you.
Yeah.
And for two, be fucking safe, because shit is real out there and the cops want to fuck you up. That is the one, is the number one fucking thing that I took from today, because I went out for just 45 minutes just to kind of witness the 5:30 round before I had to come back and tape this, and it was totally normal. But one thing that is abundantly clear is that the cops are ready to go to fucking war.
They were ready to go to war.
Oh, they wanted to.
This happened.
They fucking like it. That's the fucking
give
thing.
Me a reason. Yeah.
Exactly. They want to put that riot gear on, and they want to shoot you with fucking rubber bullets, and they will do it with or without provocation. So keep that in fucking mind when you're running around out there tonight,
I honestly wouldn't even be surprised if they all got together and were like, okay, it's been a couple of months. Somebody shoot someone so we can all gear up. It wouldn't even surprise
me. They joke about
overtime.
That shit. They joke about that shit.
I would push back on this a little bit, because I think that if you put the cops here through what Portland is putting through the cops through there, they are demoralized there. They're stressed out and they're tired. And so
quit. Go get a real fucking job.
So it's possible to demoralize your police department. It's possible to really make them hate their fucking day. And I think when demonstrators are doing what they're doing in Portland, then that's a real successful thing. I mean, it's great practice, right? So I also think that that's a great thing. I mean, I'm also not disagreeing, Skylar and Flo, with what you two are saying either. But if you put enough
I think they're
stress on
doing
them,
it intentionally. Like at this point, you can't say this is one off. You can't give me the bad apples thing. Like I'm now, the saying, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not listening, right? Like, I'm at the place where I'm like, are they planning these like in a way where they then get to act out on their, childhood fantasies of the good guys versus the bad guys, and they're the good guys, right? Like it's this way of like riling people up, because otherwise it just doesn't make sense. If these are bad apples, then why aren't you getting bad apples out of the bunch so they don't spoil it?
Right.
Like, I don't understand why there is so much protection of people who you're claiming are just one-offs and are making all of your jobs so much harder. If you don't want to have on riot gear and you don't want people out protesting in the streets, you should be the main ones calling for your own improvement. Like I say this over and over again. I've never seen another industry that is so reticent to its own improvement. Like I could potentially be a person who would be on the side of like, okay, they were trying to improve themselves, but they resist improvement at every step of every turn.
Right.
I've never seen a police union say, you know what, we should do things to improve our safety. We should do things to improve our relationship with the community. We should do things so we're not harming people as much. We should get out of our own way and give that to someone else. I hear healthcare providers say that all the time.
Right.
We want to kill fewer people. So tell me what we can do so I can kill fewer patients, right? Like I hear that conversation. The healthcare is notoriously racist as well, but they're not out in the street saying, you know what I enjoy doing? Killing patients. Let me kill them. Please don't stop me. Don't put any restrictions on. So no, your entire institution is corrupt because you are resistant to improvement. You do no continuous quality improvement, and you resist improvement every step of the way. And we just keep paying you for it because you're apparently extorting us.
Enormous sums, paying enormous sums, slices of the budget.
How many dollars from CARES?
$104 million to the sheriff's department, and then another $22 million to the probation department.
Imagine
now, public health had to scrounge. And another thing Sue Frost said on the record was to Dr. Kassirier, our public health officer, well, why didn't you fight harder? And I wanted to jump through the phone, and I don't call women out their names, but I had some choice words for her in this house of my own where no one could hear, because I was like, you're telling me in the midst of trying to deal with extreme heat events, the fact that we are in a COVID pandemic, the fact that none of the other things that the public health department was actually doing with 5% of your budget before all of this happened have gone away. There's still heart disease. There's still diabetes. There's still cancer. There's still mental health, like all the things they were already doing. And they're doing all of this with 5% of the budget. And you want to ask why someone didn't have time to fight you when they asked you for money that should have been fucking theirs in the first place? Fuck you, Sue Frost. And the horseshoe road.
Though.
Like,
that should be the name of this episode.
It was so insulting that she would actually purse her lips to say, why didn't you ask again when you were told no? Are you fucking kidding me? She shouldn't have had to ask in the first place, let alone to have been told no in the first place. How is it that you can fix your small pea-sized brain to think that is a rational argument in all of this?
Yeah. I want to bring it back to our original disagreement and just say, I think there's a difference though between killing people, right, on your day job in your 8-hour shift and then going and working a protest.
Right. I was gonna say too, they're like most of these cops are good guys argument or whatever. Like imagine that it's your fucking job. Like you come to work in the morning and your boss is like, all right, so here's the deal. One of your coworkers murdered a dude in cold blood and it's on camera and the whole country saw it and they're fucking pissed. So everybody's in the street. Here's the plan. You're going to put on all this military gear and go brutalize all the people who are angry about it. And then you go like great, cool, yeah, I'm gonna put on this gear and then go brutalize the protesters who are angry about these deaths that we are responsible for, that were perpetrated by us. Like, a good person, when their fucking chief says, like, that's what we're doing today, says, I'm good. I'm going to go stock grocery shelves or do something that actually benefits my community.
I mean,
that's
totally
what a fucking good person does.
But what it comes down to is they're a gang. And we've talked about this before. Yeah, they're a fucking gang. They're a violent gang. So when one of their buddies kills somebody in the street and they're obviously wrong.
On camera.
They don't think like, oh, that was fucked up. They think, I got to defend this guy that's in this gang with me. And they also see themselves doing that someday. And they're like, all of the other guys in my gang better rally around me when I kill somebody incorrectly in the street. And
this is why there are no fucking good cops. That's what that fucking means. No good cops.
Mm-hmm. It's a gang.
That's why it's called the Fraternal Order of Police, because they engage like a fraternity, and you're not supposed to like betray your fraternity brothers. And the things that happen are supposed to be secret, and you're supposed to just have their back with, you know, unconditional loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to be employees who are like, wow, my coworker's really messing up, and that kind of puts us all at risk, so I should whistleblow. You're supposed to be like, that's my brother.
Flop.
So here's
and question. The cops who like traditionally cops who have tried to speak out and get out in front of it get fucking either blacklisted out of the service, or they get fucking like assaulted or killed by the other cops.
Yeah, I mean that's
so even if cops do want to speak out, they fucking can't.
Yeah, but
you can always quit though.
I want to say my point again. If you continue to make their days worse at these demonstrations, I think you are making a difference.
I also think if you cut their pay, you make a difference.
Well, I think that too, obviously.
Daryl.
But I have deep respect for the people who are out in the streets risking their lives, making the days and nights worse for these cops. And totally. I'm just really thankful for folks like that.
Yeah, same.
Totally agree. So I was going to ask a question. And I know, Skylar, I know you have something that you want to say to all of us. But before you do that, my question is, this is like a wonderfully yelly episode, but what is our call to action? How do we activate the people in the middle of this?
I think like my immediate answer to that is, if you are capable and willing, like, go get in the streets with people. Honestly, like, especially if you are a white person, use your whiteness to help your POC brothers and sisters by putting yourselves in between them and the police. Like, that is a big thing that you can do right out the gate if that's an option for you. I would also say, if you can't do that, it's not like a mark of shame, and it's not like a courage competition. If you can do that, great. It's great work to do. If not, be a fucking supporter. Like, have those discussions. Don't let people get away with shit. You run into people fucking like, oh, well, Jacob Blake was going for a knife and, had like some kind of history of sex crime or whatever. Shut that fucking shit down. That's something you can do without putting your body in danger, if that's a consideration.
Mm-hmm. And I think a second thing too is to follow up with what Flo is saying is effective, right? It's making sure that these violent institution gangs aren't being funded the way they are. And that involves a lot of political action. There are groups out there to reach out to. And there's been a lot on the ground here locally, on a state level, on a national level. There are things that you can become a part of to help make that happen.
Yep.
And I think if I can add, sorry, Flo. So if I can add something, I would say one is to light up the email boxes of Sue Frost, especially if you find yourself in her district, and also the mayor for his bullshit, call to be a peaceful protester.
Vote no on Measure A, and then you can make sure that he doesn't have additional power, right?
Right, totally.
I mean, he's proving to us where he stands on equity issues. He's against the rent control measure. He has proven time and time again that he does not really care about this issue. And so I think the easiest way to tell him to go fuck off in terms of all of this is to vote no on Measure A and just say, like, you're wrong-headed in your approach on this, and it shows, and we don't trust you with additional power. And Measure A is the Strong Mayor Initiative. Just tell him no. Like, I think that's a really good way to humble him and let him know that he doesn't just have a blank check from the city of Sacramento to be able to do whatever he wants to. And then he really needs to reconsider. He needs to spend some time in the mirror, spend some time really reconsidering where he stands on issues of human rights and what he wants his legacy to be. And I'm hoping we can appeal at least to his ego, because I think he wants to have a legacy. And I don't think he wants his legacy to be, I negotiated slave states and free states. I think he wants his legacy to be progressive. Otherwise, he wouldn't have, Gil Duran out here writing his fluff pieces all the time saying that he's this progressive. Like, make him prove it. Make him work for it. He has been skating for so long and not having much to show for it. And I think it's time for him to actually have to put the rubber to the road.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think like the overarching thing is whether it's you in the street in a physical sense or you at your computer sending emails or making phone calls. Uh-oh, we got something going on here. Well, the fire truck. That could be good or bad.
Is that Daryl Steinberg?
Is that I think Daryl Steinberg just drove a fire.
Daryl in
my house.
A crow suit driving and
Number one thing, though, I think that encompasses all of this is that regardless of your method, we aren't getting fucking justice, and that means they don't get any fucking peace. So, keep them from having their peace. Do not let these people have a peaceful moment. They don't get to chill out and have a nice dinner with their spouse. They don't get to fucking take a nice walk with their dog. Not until we get fucking justice. Then they can have their fucking peace.
Yeah, my final thing is there's a very well-known picture on the internet of this large pig that has gone number 2 and evacuated its bowels, but its evacuation is resting on its testicles. I'm not sure Sue Frost has seen this image, and that's something that I just want our listeners.
It would be awful if a bunch of people were to send that to her.
I don't know.
I don't.
And I'm not telling anyone to do anything or not to, but
I would never
don't think
condone
she's
that.
seen it.
Yeah, no, I do. I don't think our listeners should do that. They should definitely not Google the pig with the shit on its balls.
Save that image.
Well, when you put it that way, Shannon.
Sue Frost's Facebook page and send it to her email and mail it to her house.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want anyone to do that.
No.
Not to make this about me. One of the things that I've been dealing with through all of this is unemployment, which it's fine. I don't say that to ask for any help or to make it about me. But part of what I've been trying to do, in addition to keeping peace from people who do not deserve it, is to look for perfect takes. I almost said good takes, but that's not far enough. What I need is perfect,
folks. Perfect ones.
The perfect takes.
The most perfect of the takes.
So I'm fairly internet savvy and I'm pretty good about fishing for these things myself. But I wanted to come and ask you guys: is there sort of a more like a consolidated site where maybe a lot of this work has been done for me, and instead of foraging for my takes, I can more just sit back and have them served to me as if I am like a Grecian emperor being fed grapes as I recline?
I think I have an answer to that.
So great.
And so first of all, Skylar, thank you for feeling comfortable enough to share your situation with us.
Yeah,
vulnerability.
You know what? No, I love you guys.
Yeah, it really is. We love you too, man. And I think that's true. Vulnerability is power. We are leftists on here, and we're all taking care of each other. So
Holy shit.
What?
I love it.
Love to see it.
I think I do know
love
a
to think about it.
place with a number of grapes on a vine of perfect takes.
A vineyard, if you will.
A
vineyard
an entire
of perfect takes.
Acres upon acres of perfect takes that have not been harmed by these 2020 fires. And that this vineyard is called voicesrivercity.com. We
Correct.
We need to make our own wine.
We should.
Dang, that's the best merch ever.
Voices wine?
Every time I think we've hit rock bottom, we somehow find a trap door and just dig ourselves deeper. And
you know what it is, Flo, is that we like strive for perfection and achieving perfection.
Yeah, and a little fishy told me that there's a bunch of pearls.
Oh no!
Great, Kempo. We're talking about great.
Yeah, I'm mixing metaphors.
I'm getting off.
I'm thinking about these pearls and getting off.
It's getting real weird.
Hold on, I haven't finished. I can't finish unless I make a good seg.
Also, Patreon. You can support us getting off if you go to.
I thought the bottom was here. And so much more happening.
So voicesrivercity.com, we started 3 years ago. There's news coverage, arts coverage, there's truth to power essays. I just got one recently that I'm really excited to publish. And you'll all see that very soon. Obviously, we have the Sack Follows the Money project, which has really been, I hope, a positive impact on our electoral process. And more recently, our most recent iteration has been this podcast, which has just been a joy to do with the three of you and all of our guests, and people in the community are responding. So that's been really cool. And we are on Twitter at Voices River City, Facebook Voices River City, Instagram at Voices River City. I laugh every time I see whatever little clip Skylar puts on there.
Always great.
It's always so good. And then,
I believe you mean the most upstanding and trustworthy co-host
of the group. Yeah.
That is accurate.
I think that's what I did mean. And then we are on Patreon, patreon.com/voicesrivercity. You can go as low as $5 a month. That's a beer at the bar you're not going to just support us in the work we're trying to do. As high as $25 a month, and you'll get a t-shirt and a mug that says Voices River City on it. No matter what you do, we're just like super thankful for all of our listeners and people paying attention. We're on YouTube if you want to watch our faces as we do this, Voices River City. I am personally on Twitter at YouKnowKempa, YOUKNOWKEMPA.
I'm there as Guillotine for You. That's Guillotine, the number 4, YOU.
I am Shan N.D. Stevens.
And I am Flojaune, FLOJAUNE.
I guess that's it. I guess it's time to get off.
We have gotten off. We have all gotten off, and we're done.
We've been signing off like this for a while, but I think it's extra prescient now because of what's going on. And I actually, my phone's kind of starting to go off, and I think that there's fucked up shit happening.
Yeah, the cops are coming back to I gotta go too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, especially tonight, this week, we really do love you, and we really do want you to please stay safe.
Oh my gosh, and do your best to stay sane.
And in all the ways you can, please stay healthy.
And in every way possible, and I mean this from the bottom of my soul, stay the fuck away from me.
Thanks, everybody. We really, really, really love you. Yeah. And thank you for listening.